What?
20 minutes?
I'm old. I don't do anything for more than 3 minutes.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Have a fabulous, fantastic Friday. Oh my gosh, this is going to be one exciting episode of the D Word. Welcome, welcome, everyone. This is your host, Pearly Almonte, along with my co-host, Carolina Denhard.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday.
Today is super, super special because, we just met this, I personally met this gentleman only during the photo shoot of Divorce Dynasty at the Mammoth Executive Airport. And everybody was drawn to him because he's funny, he's heartwarming, and he's very handsome. But wait till I tell you about his bio. Okay, I know we only have a few minutes, so I'm going
Thank you, Fairly.
Get right to it. Okay. Mr. Michael Wilds is an immigration lawyer and is the mayor of Englewood, New Jersey. He has served as a federal prosecutor and as a city councilman before he was elected mayor in 2003, re-elected in 2006, and again in 2018. That speaks of how Mayor Wilds is well respected and loved. He's nationally known as the American immigration law and has been called the attorney to the stars. Many of his clients are celebrities, including the First Family. And of course, Divorce Dynasty, founded by divorce attorney, family law, and international law attorney Carolina Denhard, seeks the finest professionals to serve the people whose lives we touch by bringing to our platform the dynamos like Mr. Wilds. Woo! Well, welcome, Mr. Wilds. I know that.
Thank you. Thank you, Pearly. Thank you, Carolina. What a burst of energy for this wonderful Friday. And thank you. You need to have your eyes checked if you really think, after all this gray, that I'm worth any kind of eye candy. But thank you for the flattery.
I told you he's very funny. He said, when he introduced himself, my client are people with accent. Oh, he's talking to me.
No, it's
I don't hear an accent. Carolina, do you hear an accent? I don't hear an accent.
No, and if I do, I love it. But it's wonderful to have you on, Michael. Obviously, we've done several shows together for the Polish community, for Divorce Dynasty. But a lot of people say to me, why do you have an immigration attorney on a Divorce Dynasty platform? What does divorce and immigration have to do anything with the other? And the answer is everything. If you're going through a divorce and you have an immigration issue, whether pending, whether you're pursuing one, whether you had one, whether there's children, international issues. So you and I really do need to work together for our clients that are dealing with whether they're applying for citizenship, visa status, domestic violence, and you, with your plethora of experience, really knows how to hone in on those issues to prevent a bigger disaster than a divorce may already be.
So the energy of a divorce takes and consumes anything like oxygen in its own wake. And as Furley said, if there's somebody in the relationship that's cross-cultural or has an accent and hails from another country, not only will your financial, your spiritual, your emotional world come down, but there's a potentiality that your immigration world will be jeopardized. And thankfully, immigration lawyers are at the intersection of corporate, criminal, family, all sorts of other arenas of law. Nothing is more imperiled and more delicate than a person who's divorcing who has an immigration matter dependent on somebody else. Now, look, I'm a law professor. I'm actually a second-generation immigration lawyer. My father, who represented John Lennon back in the day in the 1970s, and today is sadly, John would have been 80 years old today. So I tip my hat to that extraordinary statistic. You know, the truth is that immigration, when it comes to family, keeping people together. John was here with Yoko looking for a child that had been absconded by Yoko's first husband. When people get married and they get a green card, they get a status, sometimes it deteriorates very quickly and they can lose their station in life legally. And sadly, we see, not just because of COVID, but circumstances where there's actually emotional or domestic abuse, where the government, thank God, through the Violence Against Women Act, has created an independent route for people to go into the system so they don't have to be dependent on the wrong person for the right paper. The idea is to take the energy of what you do in Divorce Dynasty, to find yourself a solid lawyer, somebody who will charge you by the project, not by the hour, because this can be very emotional. My cell phone is always available, and I have a team in our New York, New Jersey, Miami, and Los Angeles office that's always available to our clients around the clock. And sadly, they have to call police, they have to go to family lawyers. So the partnership between your space and our space is coveted partnership. America's golden doors still remain open to people who have made mistakes in marriages or find out the hard way that they have to move on with their lives. And the important thing for everyone to kind of know is that you have to have entered the marriage for good reasons. But if it deteriorates for genuine reasons, the government will want to see it, and then you'll be safe and you'll be okay. So when a person is going, God forbid, through a cancer or medical challenge, a divorce, as I consider this to be a monumental shift in life, they shouldn't have to worry about their immigration status. And that's something that we have earned our stripes on over the course of years. And I want to urge your viewership not to worry. If it was a real marriage, you're going to be okay. For those people that are just embarking on relationships, raise an eyebrow, take a deep breath before you do something. Consult with an immigration lawyer if you're out of status or if you have anything questionable, just to make sure before you onboard in the marriage, you've at least had a thoughtful conversation with somebody professional.
Michael, one of the things that we talked about during the pandemic was domestic violence and people that were in transition of getting their green card in a holding pattern, or maybe they had the initial green card and not the secondary prong. And the fact that their spouse, although maybe they did something wrong to them, was the golden goose that was going to be essentially killed, that they had to be deported. What's going on in that realm right now? We have a lot of questions about that, and women essentially choosing to live in fear because of the husband who supports them and the family being deported.
Finances has created hostages. And like the Stockholm Syndrome, where somebody identifies with somebody who is actually their captor, you cannot allow things to deteriorate. First of all, the rule of thumb in that space is document, document, document. If, God forbid, you call the police or there's a neighbor or you're being screamed at, there's aggressive texting, or somebody actually has the gall to physically hit you, you must call the police. You must authenticate it through a third party so that your Violence Against Women Act application for a green card will be predicated on real fact and foundation. We've sadly had clients come into our office with bruises, with photos, with video on occasion. So you want to authenticate and document any kind of breach from the normalcy. And anybody who would have the audacity to hit somebody that they once loved really is off. You don't want to hurt them sometimes, but you also don't want to play victim and not be able to help yourself. The second thing that I would say to people is make sure that you're in the capable hands of a good lawyer. Make sure that the immigration lawyer understands the grounds of divorce. The divorce lawyer understands what the immigration task at hand is, so you don't have to duplicate. You don't want to pay too many professionals at the same time. I have heart. I do what they call in Polish a mitzvah. I do a good deed for the neighbor. Poor unsuspecting soul in my waiting room is going to end up getting a higher bill because I have a divorced soul in my office who's going through a hard time. I don't want to add insult or salt to the wound. And it's very important that you find somebody who not only has the respect, but can command the scene. You show up to the scene. What was the mechanism of injury? Why did this couple get to this point? And also, what are all the moving parts in their lives? Their financial considerations, their children. You might be very well taking too aggressive a station in life, knowing, of course, that that's the mother and the father on the other side of a child, and that they have to live with one another. And you have to calm your client down and take a deep breath. This will be in their rearview mirror soon enough. Let's do this professionally so that it doesn't cost a lot of money, and they will again look at this with a comfort as they go forward in life.
I have a question, Mayor. Okay, what happens to same-sex couples? Like right now, it's being challenged, that it will be overturned. I am married to a woman. And we've been together and married for almost 9 years now. And somehow it leaves me a very unsettling feeling. And also I'd like for her to be able to come with me to the Philippines. But in the Philippines, there is no recognition of same-sex marriage. How does the immigration law play into that? How do we protect our rights?
It's a very kind and thoughtful question. I have to tell you that I've married hundreds of couples through the years as mayor. The most endearing ones are the most challenging ones through the time when there were civil unions permitted. I wore it with pride. I actually, on my Sabbath, I'm a Sabbath observant Jew. I used to bring the couples home to my home. And when my kids would eat at the Shabbos, the Sabbath table, they would see a black couple jumping over a broom, as they did in the days of plantation when there was no pastor. They would see somebody breaking a glass, and they would see same-sex couples who for a generation are still sending me Christmas cards and chocolate every year because they had an endearing experience and credit me with their beautiful union. To answer your question succinctly, thank God immigration stepped up magnanimously when DOMA was defeated before the courts. They did not miss a beat. We have not lost a marriage case in our practice because the immigration authorities does their vetting, and we won't onboard a marriage case into our office unless we know it's legitimate. Often I'll do Skypes or coffees with clients, now socially distant, on Zoom just to be assured of the narrative. And if anybody pulls something on me, I'm not going forward to the authorities. And it's a weird thing. People sometimes come in with the jacket to get married, and they have to get married, and they have the label on the suit because they're getting married with the mayor and they're going to return the suit. They didn't want to pay for it. And if I see something like that, I have to marry them as a mayor, but I don't have to onboard the case as an immigration lawyer. And that's the ethics is everything when it comes to moving a case forward. When it comes to the compassion, Furley, that you and your 9-year marriage and the dignity with which your marriage feel, other countries will eventually catch up. I never thought, and I'm doing this more than 30 years, and thank God my dad's doing this 62 years already. I never thought I would live in a nation and in a country where this would happen. But when the law defeated it, they stepped up immediately. Now, it's quite honestly a lot easier for the immigration authorities to tell the difference in a heterosexual marriage if a couple is legitimate than in a same-sex relationship. And let's face it, people go on journeys through life. I meet with couples. Somebody was married to a woman. Now the gentleman has 3 kids from a prior marriage, but now he's marrying another guy. So there's been a journey. There's been an experience. Immigration has been trained to deal with this. My job as an immigration lawyer is to understand all the moving parts, the energy of the past divorce, the current relationship, and the fright that they may feel when they go to a restaurant, when they go into a legal proceeding, and if, God forbid, the second couple divorces. So the idea is to remind yourself that you're a lawyer to both sides of the couple, and to take this dignity that the Supreme Court afforded us way too late in our nation's history, and to make up for lost ground. So all I can tell you is you won't feel that way in the United States. It's my personal prayer. The Philippines will have to catch up. We have succeeded in asylum cases from countries like Grenada. I mean, friendly countries, but they also are backward when it comes to same-sex relationships. No matter what your religious or politic is on this, love is packaged in different ways, in different colors, and the truth is, it's a beautiful experience. And that's what's getting me through COVID. I was the driveway mayor. Now I'm the backyard mayor because all I do is marry people all day long. I thrive off of that energy. And the idea is for you and your beautiful energy, Furley, to set an example in your own marriage and for those people coming up behind you, that this is what we love and this is how we love, and you have to respect it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Michael, one of the things that we're seeing an increase in as I continue my work with Eastern Europe and Poland is that American citizens are marrying brides in Poland. You know, they're going over there on business and they're getting married. What is the process right now for that new bride to find herself on American soil with her new husband?
I remember doing the Montel Williams show in 1989 or something, and it was a mail order bride show, and it was a fascinating endeavor. They had this 90-day fiance show. The experience of finding people, it used to be in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, you met somebody at a bar or through somebody. Now it's all online. Bagel meets, whatever, Tinder. I can't tell you, most people have the endearing first screenshots of how they met. The government gives you generally 4 ways of onboarding a person through a marriage. And each one is involved and heavy, but it's up to a dutiful lawyer to discern, particularly now with embassies and consulates being closed the world over, how best to bring somebody here. You can engage somebody as a fiance. You have to have met them twice, and the person can do a K-1 visa. They must marry within 90 days. That's method 1. Method two is you can marry abroad and come in on a K3 visa, which is a temporary visa for the purpose of coming in to get married, to process your green card having married. The third process would be just to file for a green card abroad. You marry somebody, the person stays, that generally will take about a year. The fourth way is if you came to the United States, and you have to be careful not to do this within 90 days of your entry, because if the government sees you had a shotgun wedding in Vegas, unless you were drunk or something, you got married within 90 days and you filed papers, the government will say that you committed visa fraud. You had a preconceived intention when you came to America, not as a B1, B2 visitor, but you came with the intention of getting married. Therefore, your visitor's visa was a visa fraud element. Now, the 90-day rule only works at American embassies abroad. By extraction, most couples are waiting that period of time. And then you can adjust your status. That's a term of art when you go from a temporary status to a permanent status domestically in the United States. So to recap, you can do a K1 visa and then marry within 90 days when it's issued. Those take generally about 9 months. It's taking longer because of COVID. The second is a K3 visa. You marry abroad and you come back to the United States for the purposes of applying for a green card. You can do a green card abroad, just stay abroad, forget the 90 days, forget the K3, just apply for the green card abroad. Or if you come to the United States on a different capacity, a visa that allows for dual intent or otherwise, you can apply domestically. You need to get good advice because the fees will determine what you can afford. The process in your country, because of the inherent or intrinsic challenges that certain nationals have at those posts, will also have a great effect. And frankly speaking, things like prenuptial agreements, which is the intersection that I have with family lawyers such as yourself, Carolina, and I urge people, reach out to somebody like Carolina. The distinction and the onboarding of a green card is made so much more seamless and better when I have a family lawyer on the side shepherding things like that along. I will actually use the prenup to show the legitimacy of a marriage to the American authorities. And then just realize, and I teach this to my law students, every immigration case is a potential conflict. You know, the marriage is great until the dishes are being thrown at each other. An employer is sponsoring somebody until the employee decides to leave or the employer wants to get rid of you. Try to think, who does the lawyer represent? Does he represent me or my employer in the immigration space? Does he represent me or my husband or me or my wife? How do you do that? And if that's the case, just know fundamentally, the immigration lawyer in a marriage case has the obligation ethically to the party, to the group, to both of you. So if all of a sudden the dishes begin to fly or there are issues, you may have to withdraw or tell both parties, I can't continue because your interests are now not aligned together. And it's very important that you choose a line in the sand, and kind of like in a casino where you show your hands, that you show people what you're doing and why you're doing it. And that we're always authenticating the process, and communication is key, not just on fees, but for people to understand the next stages and steps. And that's the final word I'd like to say on immigration. The government doesn't trust marriages. So to answer your question in a filibuster, Carolina, the government will only give a green card good for 2 years to a couple that's married less than 2 years. The imperative is on you 90 days before the 2-year anniversary of the green card to petition the authorities to remove the conditions to the green card and get a full green card. Once you have a full green card, or 3 years from the original green card, you can then apply for citizenship if you're in marital harmony. If God forbid you divorce, you then just have to wait the 5 years. So there are 4 jobs immigration lawyers have to do: a conditional green card, a full green card, citizenship, and a passport. And that means you need to have a long-term relationship and respect for your attorney.
Mayor, I have a question. Oh,
good. Well, I was just going to follow up further. The other thing that we see in divorce, Michael, is when a company sponsors someone and then the wife is under that umbrella, the family, right? And that employment terminates, the contract isn't renewed. We now have roots. The children are going to school here. What happens in those situations? Is there an appeal process when your employer is the sponsor?
So if you lose your job in the United States, and now all of a sudden it's made worse by not only losing your job, but your marriage is deteriorating, and it's like perfect storm where everything is going negative. And by the way, a lot of those things happen at the same time for a lot of reasons I don't know. I'm a healthy veteran of a 30-year marriage, and I'm dispensing marital advice to clients, and my wife is looking at me saying, you're giving advice to other people in their marriages? You can barely keep yours together. So a Purple Heart goes to my wife, Amy, also a lawyer in our practice. But generally, these things are companions to one another. When there's difficulty at home, it has some effect in the workplace and vice versa. Thankfully, the immigration authorities have a grace period, a 60-day grace period for most work visas that will allow somebody to pivot. In the old days, they didn't have that. Old days was 2 years ago, but the bottom line is this thing is always changing. You can now, in that grace period, onboard yourself to another employer, or change your status to a visitor, or depart gracefully and sell your wares and leave America. Typically, we will change status to a visitor's visa, to a student visa, or we'll take action based on who we represent. If I represent both parties, there's a delicacy because one is now adverse to the other. If somebody comes to me because they were just fired and I don't represent the company, I will then take action to see if they can transfer their visa. The professional work visa, the H-1B, allows you through the portability clause to onboard to another employer, or you may have to apply based on their nationality or other visa specifications for other visas. But there is, thankfully, a little bit of a safe haven interim period of time, the 60 days as well. And you can buy yourself more time after the 60 days by simply applying for an extension. But you don't want to go back to the authorities time after time, because they're going to say, what's your intention? I don't understand this. Do you want to stay as a visitor, or do you really want to work? So you really need to get your act together. My advice is, anytime I get a referral from a distinguished family lawyer, that lawyer has to play a role in the case, because there's a lot more going on behind the scenes, and I don't want to give them advice that will undermine the family lawyer's trajectory, because you are the more important lawyer in their life at this point. Even though we have an effect in their right to be in the United States, and they can get banished if they make a mistake, the more important thing is to extract them from that cancer, and that's why I tip my hat all the time to you, Carol.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, well, you heard me sing my intro during the Divorce Dynasty photo shoot. You know, Filipinos I'm sure would love to reach out to you, because there are so many extraordinary professionals in the medical field, also in the entertainment field, that would love to know what are their chances of becoming permanent residents in the U.S.
So I have to tell you, I grew up in a home. My father started the law firm in 1960. We're in the same building since then on 53rd and Madison in Manhattan. We expanded to other states. But I remember as a child in the 70s, he would bring me these gorgeous stamps on communications from Filipino clients and from Guyana and all these beautiful countries, where I got a good feeling as a child growing up because of the color that they brought to life, simply because of the lousy stamp. Now those people have become part of my life, and I've done generations worth of work. I've seen the Filipino community take care of other people's children while their own children are being raised by grandparents, and the parent hasn't seen their own child in a generation. Who does that? It's not just in America, by the way, in the state of Israel and the world over. This is a nationality and a DNA of health, of heart, and love. And it needs more compassion. I'm called attorney by most of the clients that I have. Attorney Michael, Attorney Wilds. And there's a grace that also accompanied them, and I respect the community tremendously. The health professionals are also unparalleled, but the health professionals have an uphill battle because the American Medical Dental Associations and others have created all kinds of impediments because they're trying to protect Americans. So they require 2 years going home to your foreign residence before you can onboard for a professional work visa or a green card if you came as a visitor or on a J-1 visa. So I caution the Filipino community to be smart before you onboard yourself into a temporary job that you may not be able to offboard, and to make sure that you come to my office or engage us now through Zoom, Skype, and so forth with your employer. They love you. They don't like you. They love you because of the love and the compassion that you give to their home loved ones, as home attendants, as medical professionals, and so forth. Without you, the marriage of the couple in your home and the household will fall apart. So I've been told by senators, I've been told by judges, I've been told by police officers, Mr. Wilds, Mayor Wilds, if you do not get a green card for this person, you know, my husband can leave the Senate, can stop being a judge, and so forth. And I know that if you fix the right green card for a domestic, for a medical worker or somebody, it's going to be extraordinary. But the professional Filipino community also is sacred soil because of the work ethic that they have. And many of them have great academic achievements. So unlike other cultures, we have multiple bites at the apple for other visas. And it's generally the 4 visas, the acronym HELLO, the H, the E, the L, and the O. Those are the ones that we generally like to explore. If there are nationalities that they share with other countries, if they have outstanding attributes, or if they've worked abroad for companies with affiliates in the United States and so forth.
Michael, last question on my end. We see second marriages, third marriages on the rise. Everybody's a helpless romantic. They all want to get it right. And in those situations, we have stepchildren. When you're sponsoring your new wife, your second wife, and she has 2 or 3 kids under the age of 18, how does that work? So
a stepchild can have a separate petition than the original applicant. I brought one of my more television-friendly clients to my law school class this week. His name is PK, Paul Kemsley. He's married to Dorit Kemsley, one of the Beverly Hills housewives. And my brother married them. My brother's a rabbi. And my gift to them for their wedding was a green card. Now, it's not a big job if it's a marriage case. He was marrying an American citizen. No, I did him as an entrepreneur. This gentleman single-handedly was a huge property or real estate magnate. He single-handedly brought back the New York Cosmos. Now he represents Boy George and manages all sorts of important people. But when I saw him as an entrepreneur. And if I did a simple green card case because he married a citizen, his son, who was older than 18 when the new marriage was happening to the Beverly Hills housewife, would be out of pocket because it was too late. The green card the marriage had to have occurred before the child was 18. He was older than 18. So I said, PK, I'm doing a green card for you and it's still on the house. And I'm going to do it based on your being an extraordinary entrepreneur. You ride the wave. You go high, you crash and burn, you pick up something, it goes high. America needs people like you with talent, with creativity, to see something in a room that nobody else sees. And the government concurred, and they gave him an extraordinary ability green card based on his extraordinary achievements as an entrepreneur. And that was something that I was sorely impressed with, that he was able to qualify for it. And we did it simply to help us a child. A stepchild would not have worked in that case because the marriage had taken place before the child was 18. So you have to be imaginative and creative. We're always looking at the family side of the ledger, the business, the investment, and there's always a path. Don't lose sight. America's golden doors are wide open despite the administration. I have the privilege of acting on behalf of the First Lady and her family. I did the president's immigration work for Miss Universe, Trump models for a generation. Don't be scared or intimidated. This is still ground zero for the greatest entrepreneurs, love, and happiness in the world. And we seem to be managing fine.
So how do we get in touch with you?
Yes, the message you have to get qualified.
So you can use a balloon, a carrier pigeon, Pony Express, or you can do something a little more conventional. You can email me personally at michael@wildslaw.com, which is MICHAEL at my last name, the word law, WILDESLAW.com. Our website is wildslaw.com. And our phone number, you can call the phone, is 212-753-3468. I travel throughout the nation to our different offices. We have a lot of wonderful professionals, and we have people with us more than 30 years who've seen the pendulum swing from one side to the other and understand the dynamics of producing. Now, some of them are producing right now in their pajamas at home. And they go to the office and to local FedEx offices, and we have redundancies in place to make sure that nobody gets lost in the shuffle. We charge project-based fees, so my initial consultation fee is about $650, but I always credit it to the case. Other consultation fees are lower, at $500. We don't see people without the initial consultation. Otherwise, they're shopping and it's an issue. But I always work with people's budget. So that $650 or that $500 then gets credited to the case and so forth. So we have, again, wonderful people in the office who speak all languages and have seen just about everything. But it's a real treat for me, and it's given me great comfort in these days of isolation to actually travel the world every single day or hour when I meet so many different people from different parts of the world. And I see, as distant as we are, we have the same commonality, whether it's professionalism, love of one another, and so forth. So I'm indebted that my father brought me to this world in 1964 after he started the practice in 1960, and to my wife and to dear friends like both of you for allowing me into your worlds as well.
Thank you so very much. Carolina, any last words?
Well, I just wanted to say that I've known Michael for several years now, and we've done work for the Polish consulate and other venues, and he always takes a call. When there's an issue, when there's a client, when there's a need, when there's a question, whether it's a Polish client, a Filipino client, you name it, whatever the issue, this is a man that's responsive. He will make himself available, and I've seen him put the minds of many, many clients at ease during a very difficult time. So for anybody that's going through the Divorce Dynasty Professionals, or you're facing a divorce, we have truly the best on the platform that will be made accessible to you. Some people have said to me, oh, he's an attorney to the stars. How are we going to get him? You get him. He's accessible. And that is credit to you, Michael, that you make yourself so available. Thank you.
You're very kind.
Mayor.
Well, you know what? I always likened America to like an Irish stew or a cholent, and I'm sure in the Filipino and Polish community you have your own variation. The more color, the more flavor you put into it, the better it tastes. Or a rug or a tapestry that over time, as it gets worn, has more brilliant colors. That's always been the experience with America and immigration. That's the major DNA of entrepreneurship. People get status, they sponsor others. Then it gets confusing that they were immigrants, that they're citizens, and there's a new generation that regenerates itself. Whether you're a rock star or a housekeeper, I could never tell on the phone when my father was talking to somebody if it was John Lennon or if it was a housekeeper who wanted a green card and had a dripping wet life jacket in their tub. Do you understand how our station in life is made more grand, and the majesty of people coming to this country and the humbling experience that it is, because it's the same for everybody. When I took Mrs. Trump's parents to get their citizenship, they were asked the same questions of citizenship. They didn't ask who the president of the United States was, but they were asked the same humbling questions, and they had the same joy in their lives and of becoming American citizens that everybody else does. And that humanity and that golden experiment that we call America, that our founding parents and documents envisioned, is something that we work every day to shine. So please feel free to reach out to me, and I'll urge anybody to reach out to both of you, because you're also unparalleled professionals and you get the energy that we're talking about today.
Thank you so very much. You practically have me in tears, because listening to you, the magnitude of your message, and also the size of your heart is humongous. I love how you speak about equality, humanity, and most of all, like kindness and love and compassion to the maximum degree that I could even imagine. Well, thank you so very much. We're deeply humbled to have you. Very grateful for the love that you share each and every day. Carolina and I are deeply grateful that you contribute significantly to the Divorce Dynasty. So for all of you viewers out there, don't be afraid. He is not just a turning to a star. For him, you are a mega star, regardless of who you are, right? And so all he is just a phone call away. So don't be scared. No, everybody is equal. Thank you so very much.
God bless you guys. Don't be scared of the D word, because there are a lot of us here to help you.
Thank you. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thank you very much. Have a fabulous Friday, everyone, and make your day fantastic every which way you can. Until next time, this is Pearly Almonte from the Divorce Dynasty, the D word. Woohoo!
Caroline Denhart signing off. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.